Welcome to the War Room segment, where we engage in an in-depth conversation with Mike Greenwood from the Commit Foundation. In this segment, our staff has the opportunity to ask him questions inspired by our spotlight interview. Get ready for a deep dive into the insights and perspective shared by our guests. Let's enter the War Room.
First of all, we appreciate you coming on here and giving personality and more insight to your organization. Because especially for me, with a lot of these veteran organizations, it's like a faceless organization. Like, I heard bad things about some, I heard good things. Like, what are these? What are they actually going to do? But you actually gave a good perspective on what you guys do. And with that, what I really liked about your organization is you set boundaries. Like, you're just not going to help anybody. You're gonna, you have your criteria of who you're going to help. And if you feel like somebody doesn't want to help themselves and just want a handout from you, that you guys would be like, no, we're not going to. And you can use that time to help other people. So one thing you said is trust yourself. You remember, if you remember that from a few minutes ago, and that's one thing I like personally have been focusing on for the last few years, is finding trust in myself and my abilities. Because I was like, how you said, like, the whole team has to win. But let's say somebody's watching this podcast and the only time they can hear like trust yourself is right now when they're watching it, and they're not going to use the organization, they're not going to do anything else. Like, what would be the starting point you would tell somebody? How do you develop that trust with yourself? If that makes sense.
Ooh, that's a great question, right?
Swing for the fences.
How did I develop?
Never said open book.
I know. I shouldn't have. It took me a long time to develop it, and I'm still developing it. Like, and listen, this is, when are we going to stop trusting ourselves? Probably when we die, right? Mm-hmm. I can't get it out of my head. I'm just going to say challenge and failure. Understanding that, and for me personally, understanding that my failure didn't mean that I was a failure, or failing didn't mean I was a failure. Let me say it that way. When I started realizing that, like, I was learning something through that failure, is when I started trusting myself. And let's give a simple task, right? Like, in a past organization, I worked at Team Red, White, and Blue. And we did a lot of fitness. Fitness was our inlet to saying, hey, Ken, hey, Ray, let's go. Let's go work out together, brother. These people aren't bad people. You gotta trust the theme of your question. You got to trust them, and you got to trust in your community if you want to come home and be a contributing member of it. So we would use sport. And the way that we would build trust immediately is, we're going to go on a 5-mile run. We're going to run up, we're going to go to Red Rocks, or we're going to go to, the incline, and we're going to run up the incline, and we're going to run back down, and maybe we'll run up there again. And what we were developing there was trust in other people, and instantly a community, right? Because that's the only thing that can develop at that point. When you and I, we trust each other, we're now a group, we're now a community, however you want to define it. And what I realized is, like, as that was going on, and I was thrust into that leadership position to challenge to build that group, I started to turn around and look at myself and, like, hey, Mike, like, you're capable of doing this. I remember one specific event. I was so scared to do this event. We were doing a Run as One. So what Run as One is, it's an annual event put on by 3 modern nonprofit organizations, veteran service organizations: Team Red, White, and Blue, Team Rubicon, and the Mission Continues. The first year we started the chapter in Colorado Springs, people started signing up for the event. And I told my wife, I'm like, what do we do? I don't know what to do. They told me to do this event. And we got to the event, and everybody's looking around, and they're like, well, Mike, I guess you're the runner. I guess this is your event. And there's like 60 people there that I don't know, right? I have no idea. And these guys are going around, and they're like, hey, man, what class of West Point were you? When did you graduate? And I'm like, just kind of going like that. And I'm like, I didn't. And they're like, I didn't tell them I didn't, because I didn't want them to turn around and leave, because that's kind of the group that was there. But I was standing there, I was like, what do I do? And they looked at me, and they wanted me to say something. And I just got up on this rock, this big rock, kind of like Homer. And I started preaching about veterans, like, hey, this is why you're here. This is why it's important to shake Ken's hand. This is why you let Ray, be your producer. This is who this person is, and this is the purpose of this. And like, I'm getting cold chills, I swear to you right now, thinking about it, because at that time I was like, these people are listening to me. Why? And in my head, I'm going, are they listening to me? Like, who am I for them to listen to? And then at one point I was like, all right, let's do 22 push-ups. Because at that time it was, the number being thrown around was 22 veterans a day, commit suicide. And the event was in honor of a founding Team Rubicon member who committed suicide, unfortunately. So I was like, all right, let's do 22 push-ups. And everybody got down to do the push-ups. And I'm like, what's going on here? They're all listening to me. And I'm like, maybe you have something to say. And that propelled me to see that, like, I can be a leader and that people would follow me. And I felt amazing. That's a selfish thing to say, but like, that was the first time where I felt like I could step away from the success as a team and to say, like, maybe you have something to give here that's bigger. And I went home, I was on cloud 9. I was like, honey, did you see that? They listened to me. And that's when I developed that trust in myself. So it has to be through things like that. You can't just wake up in the morning, I trust you, like, you got to know what it feels like to run up that incline. You got to know what it feels like to fall. You got to know what it feels like to get back up. This same thing we tell our kids, right? Like, hey, I know that lacrosse ball hurt you, but come on, let's keep going. You're going to be okay. You're going to forget about that pain in a minute. And when you can make that switch, I believe that's when it started for me.
And that's a great story. I feel like that is like, for me, it's like throwing yourself in an uncomfortable situation. And when you come out on top based on just your own organic tools you use to succeed, then you're like, oh, these work. I can keep doing this. Was it something like that?
100%.
Okay. All right. Let me get on to my next. Oh, another thing you said, when we talk about other podcasts, is about, this is kind of what the medication is like. Pills aren't binary. Like, you're not going to take a pill and you're going to be fixed like the next day. And what you said is not a magic pill. And I think if I, like, what you're saying is your organization is not a magic pill. It's not going to be binary. It's not going to be like, you're going to come to us and then you're going to be successful on the end, the other side. And it's not really a question, but maybe your perspective on it. For me, the only really thing that is binary in this world is quitting, right? Because once you quit, then that's it. Like, if you're not putting any effort, then you're not going to go any further. And everything we have to do, like, I just wanted to say it for our viewers to hear and say, like, everything you do, you have to put in effort. You have to put in the time, and then you will succeed. And there's nothing, like, there's no shortcuts. There's nothing that's going to get you to your goal other than trying. And I don't know. I just thought I would harp on what you said and bring that up. And I don't know if you want to have a perspective on that. Chime in.
Yeah, I want to speak to us, like our group, like, as veterans. I have a guy who's probably going to watch this podcast. He is my absolute best friend in the world. I love the kid dearly. He was my squad leader and I was a team leader. And he is struggling to kind of find some motivation in some things that he's doing. And he was going through doing a little bit of coaching, doing some of the similar things that we do at Commit. And today he texted me and said, yeah, man, I'm just not motivated. I'm just not motivated to do anything. And I thought for a minute, and I had the same thought you had right there. Like, dude, don't freaking quit, man. I didn't come out hard swinging like that because I know him, right? Like, but I came out with, as your friend, I have to tell you that, by not being or the excuse of not being motivated is not a reason to not do anything. I said the only way to get motivated is to get up and do something. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't agree with you more. Like, quitting is the worst thing possible. You don't have to always do everything you start. That's not the point. But quitting and saying, like, I'm done. I can't do this. Like, you'd be hard pressed to hear me say I can't, right? Like, and I have an 8-year-old, and every time she says it, man, I swear it's like a freaking hand grenade going off in my brain. It's like, tell her no, and I'm like, God, stop! I can't take those words. I'm with you 100%, man. And to our population, if you're having trouble getting people to see who you are, that's probably because you haven't figured out the right way to tell them who you are. Don't stop trying. Like, we have so much to give in this population, so many opportunities to help our country in this moment of need. You can't stop. You can't quit. You keep going. Whether it's a transition program like Commit, whether it's Hire Heroes USA, and you're going job interview after job interview after job interview. Eventually, it's going to click, but it's never going to click if you quit. If you just sit on the couch and watch Netflix, that's all you're going to be, is a Netflix watcher. Like, get up and keep going, man. I can't stress that enough.
Yes, that's very. I like that perspective. I got. Okay, another thing you said.
Hey, I wanted to add something on that.
Oh, go ahead. No worries. I know that's just lost my train of thought, but I just wanted to reemphasize on that you may think you are doing the right thing because the effort and energy you're doing, but at the same time, you have to understand why you're doing it. Does that make sense to you?
100%. As you're painting the picture of that creek running down Pikes Peak, if you will, that's where I envisioned it. I can't help but think of, like, you remember when we were kids and we get that in math class, I think we get this collection of numbers on a piece of paper and we'd have to follow the dots, right? And then there'd be one big dot and it turns out it's the eye. And then there'd be one in a little circle that's weird and it turned out to be the mouth, right? That's what life is like, man. Life is a collection of dots. Life is, it's there you're painting the picture. You're connecting the dots as you go along. Some are going to be bigger than others. Some aren't going to matter. There is, if you don't mind, I'm going to show you this. There is this calendar. It's called Weeks of My Life. It is one of the coolest things that there are out there. So what you do is you map out significant pieces of your life. And we use it a lot for coaching, and a lot of coaches use it, and it shows you perspective, right? So you and I, like, our military line is going to be really small, right? But then you're looking at it and you're like, dude, but I have 88 potential years. The military was only here, right? Like, the military was only here. Like, do I let the lack of this and my missing of this and this stopping determine how the rest of this stuff is filled in? Right? It's the same concept. I think what I'm hearing you say is, like, do I let this tiny little circle here, determine the rest of my life? No, you get around the rock and you keep going, because look, you have all of these weeks left in life to live. So I'd say if you're up for it, like, this is a hell of an exercise to just gain perspective on self. It's called Weeks of My Life calendar. You can buy them in a pack of like 6 on Amazon. It paints what you're saying right there. If you think far enough into it.
Yeah. I've seen something like that before. I'm interested in it, but actually, when you guys, until Ken gets his technical difficulties situated, I'm actually thinking about trying that course you guys have and seeing, just to, like, get an actual firsthand view and how it works. And I'm always trying to do things to better myself in that aspect. And I'll definitely reach out to you offline. But
come on over. Listen, we have one of our best coaches up in Monument. A gentleman, his name is Otis McGregor. Like, you tell him you're a Ranger guy, you were hanging out at 10th Group for a little while. That dude is a heck of a guy. He's a heck of a coach. His company is called Tribe and Purpose, and so take it from the name of his company. Like, that's what he's trying to build: community and people who know who they are and what they want to accomplish. So if you're interested in the program, sign up, put my name on the thing. We'll get you in for sure. Anybody who's listening, if you're interested, sign up, man. Let's figure this out.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll definitely give feedback to our followers and our viewers of how my experience and how it was. And I'm always there for free training. I mean, give me something to better myself, and But
It's not free when you have to think through it, brother. It's free
I'm
in
not
terms
free,
of
but you know what I mean. Like when it's my effort and my energy and my time, you know what I
yeah,
mean. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, I know it's not free or easy.
yeah.
Um, I do have one last thing that popped up that kind of I wanted to ask you. So you were talking about soldiers with if they had a dishonorable discharge, then it would keep them from going to the program, which I understand. I mean, like I said earlier, you guys have your boundaries, and this is who we help. But for me though, um, I want to make sure all the vets, Rangers or whatever, are taken care of, because I also think that that could be the beginning of a downward spiral is a dishonorable discharge, and then you're
Yeah.
looked at differently from your friends and your community. Is you know what I mean? Like I looked at guys like that before, and now I have a different perspective. I understand, like
Yeah.
nobody's perfect. Everybody has their own significant life changing experiences, and that might have been theirs. But do you have another direction that you can send people like that who are not going to be accepted by your organization, or any other organizations who would help those people in those situations?
Yeah, I mean, quick answers. Yeah, there's a couple organizations out. I don't know everybody's charter, so I can't name drop because I don't know. I don't work there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the last thing I want to do is give somebody false information. But what I'll tell you, if you're in that position and you're questioning it, you can do the same thing we're doing. You look me up, we could talk, and I'm not promising you anything, but like I'd still have a conversation with you. I'm the same thought as you, right? Like, in the military, we're thinking these guys are horrible. There's something wrong. But when you get out and you start talking to them and you're like, really? That's what happened? Like, dude, are you all right? Like, let's go talk, man.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff can happen, like, the wrong person at the wrong time, right? Like, so we can't crucify these guys for it. So I'd say, look me up, let's talk, let's have a conversation. We can run the same type of program on the outside. There's a good book. If you're considering exploring this type of stuff and having these type of conversations with yourself, there's a book called Designing Your Life. It's written by two Stanford engineers who took a, pun intended, design approach to your life, right? But it's an engineering approach. So you're questioning, different pieces of your life, and you're ultimately building upon goal setting and what the next 5 to 10 years look like, and how you want to do it, why you want to do it, stuff like that, and what you're going to evaluate in the process. That's a great book to dive into. I'd even say, executive coaches, if you needed me to these guys out here who may not, depending on the organization they're reaching out to, may not be able to receive assistance, like I can connect you with some damn good coaches who don't care about your discharge, who would love to talk to you. So don't count yourself out because of that. I mean, a lot of times what it comes down to is, nonprofit charters, and this is who we work with, right? When you develop yourself as a nonprofit organization, you have to be very specific on who you're going to help and how and why. Because nonprofits, I'm sure you guys know this, but a nonprofits exist to plug a hole that's leaking in society, whether it be government or whether it be public or private business. Nonprofits plug that hole that other people aren't doing, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so let's say California, homelessness, right? That was a big topic this week. So the government can't do that really well. So there's a lot of nonprofit organizations that are taking guys and girls off the street and helping them with jobs and rehabilitation and mental health counseling, all kind of things like that I'm not educated in. But that's the hole they're trying to plug in. Us here, I mean, let's be honest, guys. Like the TAP program is not cutting it, right? It's good enough to be good enough, right? So do the math there, right? So that's why commit and exists. That's why the Honor Foundation exists. That's why the Green Beret Foundation exists. We exist to help our people receive the right type of help. I know that sounds weird, but I don't need you to throw 13 jobs at me and tell me that's the answer to my happiness. I need you to say, hey, Mike, what do you see when you look in the mirror? You know, like, why'd you make that decision? Jesus, Ray, I don't know, man. Well, let's think about it for a minute, because that has a big impact on your life. You know, like those type of conversations, it's mind blowing, the transformation that can happen. And so, long story short, we were talking about dishonorable discharge, but like, still reach out. There's some guys and girls who will help you. You know, you don't have to sit there. And my understanding is you can challenge that stuff anyways and get it overturned. So, you know, let's figure it out.
Yeah, thanks. That's definitely going to help some people out. At least give some people hope who think that the dishonorable discharge just put a cap on their benefits or people who help them out when they get out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that was all I had, and I appreciate you giving your insight on the questions or the things I brought up. I really hope that it helps a lot of people out, and I hope people who need your organization reach out to you. And we will be posting a link to your organization on our platforms, just so hopefully that helps you guys out too. I don't got much else. Ken, you got anything?
No, I don't have anything, but other than just, I think this storm is creating terrible service for me. So that's been a
No worries.
nightmare.
I think
Hopefully
we
it's
covered
good
down.
for Mike and Commit, because I do really appreciate their time. And I thank you, Mike, for just the wealth of knowledge. And I thank you for serving, continuing to serve veterans even after, you know, you got out of the military. I think that says a lot about you.
Yeah,
No,
definitely.
Thanks for doing this podcast. You know, I'll tell you, it's having been in the space for a while. We trust our community. So having a solid voice to talk to them, and I can feel authenticity from the two of you. From the moment I talked to Ken 10 days ago, right? You know, roughly. You know, I could feel that his heart was there. So anybody listening to this podcast, pay attention to these guys. They're gonna put some good stuff out for you. You know, I don't know you from Sam, but I do know what it feels like to talk to you. I'm a conversation expert. I can tell you that I can feel your heart between both of you. So keep up the good work, man, and keep reaching out to your boys.
That means a lot. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Mike. And like we always say here at Sua Sponte Podcast, Rangers lead the way.